What is it that makes you, you? At least that is the question Disney Pixar's upcoming feature animation asks us in their latest film, Soul. And to delve into this philosophy a little bit more, we turn to the producer over at Pixar, Dana Murray, to help us answer the question. But before we do, take a look at the trailer.
What would you want to be known for on Earth? We only have a short time on this planet. You want to become the person that you were born to be? Don't waste your time on all the junk of life. What am I doing? Spend your precious hours doing what will bring out the real you. The brilliant, passionate you that's ready to contribute something meaningful into this world. I got the gig. I really need a haircut today, man. Can you fit me in? Whoa, sorry. What the? Hello? So what do you want to be remembered for?
Probably for doing this funny cowboy dance.
Great.
Hello, Dana. Thank you so much for joining BritAsiaTV today to tell us about Pixar Animation's upcoming film, Soul. How are you, first of all?
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Doing good, like all of us, sick of being in my house all the time, but
There's been so much anticipation for this film, and since it premiered at the BFI in October, it's been one of my most anticipated films of 2020 anyway. But having been raised on a diet of Disney films all my life, that's generally the case with any new release. So before we can explore it, would you just like to tell us a bit about Soul? Just a short summary in your own words.
yeah, thank you for the compliment. Soul is about a film where Joe Gardner is a middle school band teacher and lives in Queens, New York, and his true passion is to play jazz, and he's hoping to get a big break with playing with Dorothea Williams, who is one of the jazz greats, and he finally gets that break and then falls in a manhole. And then this takes him to a world he's never been, and he's transformed and goes on a journey with a character named 22. And they kind of teach each other about life and learn about each other's from different perspectives. And yeah, it's just a journey film with two great characters.
Well, I was fortunate enough to watch Soul over the weekend, and honestly, by the third act, tears were streaming down my face. But I must say at this point, it was probably necessary to put out a disclaimer to bring tissues as well.
Well, thank you. I mean, we take that as a compliment. So.
But honestly, it's no surprise that the film evoked so much emotion because it was co-directed by Pete Docter, who brought us films like Up, Monsters, Inc., and one of my most personal and poignant favourites, Inside Out. So I want to know firstly what it was like working with the brilliant brain behind those films together with the co-director Kemp Powers.
Yeah, I feel really lucky for the opportunity. I worked on Up and Inside Out. So I've worked with Pete for a long time. And so when I was given the opportunity to actually produce this, I was like, count me in, because Pete, to me, makes the most emotional films that ask the biggest, deepest questions. And so when you're spending 4 or 5 years on something, you want to make sure that you're really invested in the topic. And, bringing Kemp in as a partner was amazing. He really did just start as a writer, but within months, he was so infused within the production in every department. We would find him with the animators up in the art department. He was working, with the effects department. So he was just all over the place, and he became such a key partner in also making all the characters culturally authentic and truthful. We had a lot of consultants and a culture trust, but Kemp was a key player, and really related to Joe Gardner, especially he's from New York. He also was on that kind of artist journey, loved jazz music.
Because I was watching Inside Pixar on Disney Plus, and I discovered a bit more about Kemp Powers and how he has so many similarities to Joe Gardner. But we'll talk about that in just a second, because I've mentioned Inside Out, but I do want to go back to it because there were some similar elements which were echoed throughout Soul, mainly in its visual metaphors, but also how it forces you to just face your fears and thrusts you into such a vulnerable position, but also makes you feel comforted at the same time. So while they do have similarities, I want to know how they are different, because I feel like Soul literally takes you to the next dimension. So how do they differ?
Yeah, exactly that. It was really important to us that they feel like very different films, even though they both have two worlds and we're taking you to worlds you've never been. I think they explore really different concepts. Inside Out, you're inside a girl's brain. It's taking you in, where we think of Soul as really taking you out, like you said, to this other dimension, next dimension. So we wanted the worlds to feel, really, really different from each other. But I think, because Pete just likes making these really, really deep films and, talks about things like emotions, personality, it's like there's some overlap there, I guess, within the themes of those things.
Now, the film features the voice talents of the Academy Award-winning Jamie Foxx, who plays Joe Gardner, alongside Tina Fey, who plays 22. How did you go about casting for the characters of the film?
Yeah, Jamie seemed like such the obvious choice from the beginning, because he's not only a great dramatic actor, but he's a hilarious comedian, and he also is an amazing pianist and musician in his own right. So having someone that was passionate about music was really important to relating to the character. So that was really helpful. And then Tina Fey, it's like, we wanted we always thought of 22 as like a petulant teenager, kind of knows it all. And the way Tina Fey can deliver a sarcastic line I don't know. I think she's one of the funniest people. So she just fit so well, from day one.
No, it definitely worked for the character of 22. Okay, so going back to Kemp Powers' contribution to the film, it's the first Pixar film where the world is set in an entirely African-American community. So I know it's been in development for about 5 or 6 years now, but was this cultural ethnic choice something that you decided right from the outset?
It kind of happened organically, actually. The first early draft of the idea the entire thing took place in the Soul world. So we realized quickly that, like, to really show what was meaningful about living, you kind of had to go there. And so it started that 22, and that first draft was the main character, and then it switched to Joe, and we were kind of exploring like what was Joe's passion, and we tried different things. We were like actor, scientist, but when we landed on musician, that felt really right. But we didn't want him to be a musician because he wanted to be rich or famous. So then when we landed on jazz, that felt really like a noble passion, because you don't go into it for money or power. It's like you go into jazz because you have passion for it and you love it. And then, once we landed that he was a jazz musician, one of our cultural consultants called it Black improvisational music. And to do jazz and that culture justice, it's like he had to be Black. And so we immediately knew we needed lots of help. And that's when Kemp came on, and we built a culture trust and all of that.
Amazing. Now, as per Pixar, you've crafted a story which speaks to all ages, but Soul in particular probes you to breaking point, I think. You know, whether you're an adolescent who's trying to figure out your purpose, or whether you're an adult who's trying to remember, you probably didn't think that this film would be so prescient given the pandemic we're in now. How do you think that speaks to everybody who's going to see this film in relation to the things that we've been going throughout 2020?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely wasn't the plan. This film was going to come out in June earlier this year in theaters. One of the big themes is improvising with life, and nothing seems to have gone according to plan this year. So we're incredibly grateful to have Disney Plus as the platform that at least the film gets to get out there and people get to be home and watch it safely. So yeah, it does feel like everything's kind of fallen into place and feels a little bit meant to be, even though it definitely wasn't intended to come out this way.
Once again, everybody at Pixar, Dana, Pete Docter, Kemp Powers, you've taken us to infinity and beyond with Soul, and I can only thank you, and I can't wait for friends and family to see it on Christmas Day.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for having me.
No, thank you. Bye, Dana. Take care. Disney Pixar's upcoming feature animation premieres exclusively on Disney Plus on the 25th of December. Merry Christmas!